Hello fellow chatterers, welcome back. This is part 2 of Off With Those Books, where I wrap up January, February and March 2026. If you missed part 1, have a look in the description box and use the timestamps to navigate your way around.
So I have an adult book now. This is not one I was intending to read, but I lent it to a friend and they gave it back to me. And I was sort of like, actually, yeah, I'm really feeling in the mood for that. Just going to pick it straight up. And that is Richard Osman's A Thursday Murder Club. As you can see, this is in hardback. I bought it when it first came out because I thought it sounded brilliant and just didn't read it. I think to start off with, I was expecting that we were going to read it with some work colleagues as like a book club book, and we never did. So I was kind of holding on to it, ready for that, and then we never did that, and then just sat on my shelf. And I sort of was aware that more were coming and I still needed to pick this one up. And then I got into my head about series. But hey, I've started it now. So The Thursday Murder Club, I think most people know the premise of this. Set in a retirement home, looking at cold cases, and then there is an actual murder that they then start solving. This did what it said on the tin for me. I really enjoyed getting to know all these older characters, their different interactions, the different way they worked. It really worked for me. I really enjoyed them. I found like different bits kind of coming and going. I have heard some people say that it felt too bitty for them. I didn't find it for me that way. I enjoyed it all. I enjoyed the different voices that we got and how I think Joyce is writing a diary, so she kind of like refers back to things, so you get to kind of a bit of a zany point, and then you go in there a different way. I enjoyed all of that. I was completely misled by all the red herrings. I'm not a mystery reader. Well, I am a mystery reader, but that's not my main genre. Like, I read a lot in the past in sort of my teenage and young 20s era days. Doing so well at this. And then I haven't read so much. I kind of like pick one up every now and then. So I'm not the right person to come to if you want mystery recommendations. But personally for me, I was picking up the red herrings and going, yep, I think I can see where this plot's going, and being totally misled, which I loved. So thank you. I had a great time. The next book, I'm really pleased that two people definitely wanted me to talk about this one and share my thoughts on it. I wasn't sure if I would because I have already spoken about other books in the series, but I'm so pleased that they did want to hear more about C.L. Clarke's The Sovereign, which is the third and final book in the Magic of the Lost.
Thank you, Kemi from Violet Pages and Courtney from Tangible Reads. Go check out their channels. They're awesome booktubers.
I love this series. I love this epic fantasy series so much. C.L. Clarke is a genius, and I love them and hate them at the same time because of the trauma they put you through and the tension that I just get. I've just picked the book up and I think I'd got maybe a quarter through, and I was just going, I don't even understand how this book is going to finish. Where the hell are they going to go from here? This is such a mess. Like, politically, the relationships, the land, the war, everything is dire. It's such a mess. How on earth are they going to navigate the way through this to get to an end? Do not worry. I love the expression of an author with the final book needing to land the plane. Like, takeoff can be a bit bumpy, but if they manage to do it well and smoothly and they can keep flying, it's great. But then landing the plane can be really difficult. Like, you don't want to ruin it at the end. They landed the plane brilliantly. They landed it so well. I am going to gush again, as I have done previously. I feel very privileged that I have got to meet C.L. Clarke in person. I went to a book signing by them and John Gwynne, and I was 2/3 of the way through The Unbroken, and I couldn't finish it. I wanted to have finished it when I met C.L. Clarke, obviously, but I didn't have enough time. I'd got myself to a point where I was terrified. So your protagonist terrain is a sand. Balladeer has basically conquered quite a lot of this world, and what they have done is they have taken children from different areas, so like from Quazal, which is where Terrain is from, and other countries, at like basically like child soldiers. They've taken them back to Balladeer and they have trained them and raised them. They're not given the class of citizens, but they are raised in the culture of Balladeer. So they lose part of their own traditions and their own homeland, and they become indoctrinated into the culture of Balladeer. But they are also looked down on as second class because they have been taken from essentially colonies of Balladeer. So the army, the Sands, are referred to as the ones where they've basically been kidnapped and put in the army as child soldiers, and they're treated as dirt, basically. But it's the different characters' ways of responding to that. So Terrain has to be a survivor. She needs to survive, but she also wants to better herself. She wants good things. She's driven to try and work the system, to believe that she can better herself and rise up in the ranks and be just as good as anyone else who was born of Balladeer. Other of her friends in the ranks are incredibly cynical, or they still have a rebellious side and want to they want to remember their own past and their own history. So when they are sent back to Kozal, it's complicated. So you have the Empire trying to keep its hold on this country. You have the heir to the throne, Princess Luca, wanting to try and do a better job than her uncle, try and prove herself as a great queen, but also trying to be fair, although you've literally colonized a country. And then you've got the difficulties of the Sands and how they manage being back in what is the homeland of some of them. You have the citizens of Kozal, and you have all this kind of difficulty of, should they try and overthrow the current regime? Is that going to lead to civilian deaths? Is that going to lead to deaths of soldiers? What is the right call to make in this situation? And that is absolutely what I love about this series, and what I love about C.L. Clock, the themes that C.L. Clock is exploring. That there isn't a clean-cut answer as what's going to be the best decision. There seems like everywhere you turn, there is going to be injustice and loss in some way. Loyalties are very mixed and divided, and it really pulls at your heartstrings. So when I met C.L. Clarke, I got to a point where I was really worried about any kind of decision that Terrain was going to make, and I knew I just needed to read the book to the end, because I wasn't going to be able to sit with consequences of potential bad decisions. And C.L. Clarke thought that was great. I think that's quite a compliment as an author, that you have so emotionally distraught a reader that they're struggling to continue until they can actually sit and read the whole thing. So we had a great chat, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I was speaking to them because this book hadn't been published, and I was speaking to them about how did they find the third book and the challenges and things like that. And C.L. Clarke said, you know, obviously in their opinion, they've done it. They're really happy with it, and it's done what they wanted it to do. And I absolutely agree, without giving spoilers, because obviously this is a third book. But that kind of level as what is the right thing to do in this situation. You have got kind of different rebellions happening. You have got a famine attacking the country. You've got war of different countries kind of coming in. You've got different types of magic coming in, and these have different moral implications to how this magic is used. And within that, you've also got these very complex relationships of people's different loyalties and people's past relationships, and it all just really comes into a head in this one, and it was incredible. Absolutely. If you love all of that messy political stuff, you're going to have a great time. However, there is a lot of gore within this one. Please check the trigger warnings. There is a lot of explicit stuff in here. So if that's not your vibe, just be very careful going in. For me, my love of the characters and my love of the themes and what was being explored in here, I was able to cope with the more gruesome aspects of it. But like, none of those were done lightly. Like, there are consequences to it, and I think all of that was explored, all of that was looked at. It's not just brushed off. It's not just woohoo being badass for the sake of being badass. There is like, well, you have, you know, killed someone. How do you feel about that afterwards? Like, those things are present, those things are there, and the choices they make hurt, and their choices are bold, and there is a lot going on in this. There is also a difficult kind of relationships that are looked at in terms of familial relationships, friendships, and romantic relationships as well in here. And there's so many times when I was like, what are you doing to me? What are you doing to me? And you don't know which way it's going to go at all, and it's just thrilling. And there's definitely a moment in here where I screamed, I hate you, and I am referring to C.L. Clarke in that point. They put you through the ringer. They put you through the ringer in this book, and they love it. If you love epic fantasy, this is the book for you. If you also love a sapphic relationship, this book has many of those. So highly recommend The Sovereign and the whole Magic of the Lost series. The final two books I want to talk about are ones that couldn't resist picking up from the library, which has sort of had a bit of a detriment to me trying to read what I own on my shelves. So, as you know, I have been trying to read as many books from the Middle Grade Readers' Choice Awards as part of the Middle Grade Madness Challenge. And there was one book from the 2025 list called The First Year. And the book before it is The Final Year, which is by Matt Goodfellow. I did not think I was going to be able to get hold of these, so I was delighted to see them in my library. I heard Olivia from Olivia's Catastrophe talking about what an amazing novel in verse this was. Up until that point, didn't realise they were novel in verse, so that made me extra excited to get to them. The Final Year is set in London, and it follows our main character Nate, who is a 10-year-old boy, and we see the end of year 5, the summer holidays, and the fact that he knows this is going to be his last year of primary school. Nate has a bit of a difficult family background. They're not an affluent family. It's a single parent household. He's got 2 younger brothers than him, and sometimes has a bit of a carer role within the family. His mum is clearly dealing with quite a few things, and this obviously impacts Nate, because there's a lot of struggle that Nate is having to deal with. There's also some friendship issues and all the kind of like worries that you can kind of get from your final primary school year. But what is really wonderful is the love of a family, friendship, and the importance of having teachers that inspire you and build up your idea of self-worth and self-confidence. And this really comes through in this book. And this is beautifully illustrated by Joe Todd Stanton. There are illustrations throughout the book, which just adds an extra enjoyment to the story. And it's just so sensitively done. It's just such a warm, it's a very heartfelt book. I overuse this word, but it doesn't make it untrue. It's a very heartfelt book. I was not prepared for how much I was going to be moved by this book, but I really took Nate into my heart and his brothers and their family story, and I just wanted the best for everyone involved. There's moments when it's just really hard and there isn't really anything you can do other than just believe you can kind of get through it. And I think this idea of resilience and managing that is really kind of shown in this book. Nate's appreciation of the literature that he's studying and his newfound ability to really kind of capture what he's feeling in words, and this really kind of helps him. There is a little bit of possible kind of mental health or some kind of emotional behavioural kind of difficulties that are highlighted in this book. It's not named, but it is very clearly depicted of some of Nate's kind of struggles that he's dealing with. There was a lot packed into this book, and I just was not prepared for some of it. And I was reading this whilst I was at one of my children's after school classes, and I just had to pause and just put the book down and just have a moment of going, oh wow, that was big, wasn't expecting that. And then start reading again, and it just really took me by surprise. So I do recommend, if you have quite a sensitive middle grade reader, do maybe read it first yourself so that you can be there when they hit those points within the book. I think I'm much more of a sensitive reader than my Mad Much Hair. He has now read this. I was like, when you finish Skandar, I have a wonderful palette cleanser book for you. It's very different and I really want you to read it. He read it in a night. And I can't be mad at him for just reading. I'm going to bed really late because I get it. I really should be as a parent. It's like, how dare you stay up that long? But yeah, he read it in one night. And the moment that made me just go, oh, he was like, well, I couldn't stop reading until I'd finished because of that. And I'm like, yeah, okay, fair. So yeah, a massive approval from me as an adult middle grade reader, and from my Mad Much Hair as a middle grade reader. So highly recommend this book. I did also go on to read the first year, which is Nate's year at secondary school, but I will talk about that in my Middle Grade Madness Challenge, as that is one of the books. So the book I had no intention necessarily of picking up, but the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction list was out. I'd highlighted a few books my library have. I didn't reserve them because I was feeling cheap. And I didn't want to pay £1.25 when I'm like, the bus ticket costs me more and I'm going that way anyway and I shall collect them from the library. Of course, someone had already taken them, so there were no books for me to get from that list. So I was just hovering around the non-fiction because I'm like, I'm kind of in the mood. And then I saw the front cover of this book, which has been on my radar, and I'm like, well, clearly now is the time. This is its moment. And that is Revolutionary Acts, Love and Brotherhood in Black Gay Britain by Jason Okundaye. So my introduction to this book, Revolutionary Acts, is a silver lining to some really kind of upsetting news. So this book was listed for the Polari Prize, which is fantastic, as it should be, because it's an excellent non-fiction book. The Polari Prize is an LGBTQ+ prize that's been going since 2011. This was highlighted to me from Willow and her channel Books and Bow, that one of the books listed on the 2025 Polari Prize was written by a transphobe. And being as the LGBTQ community is supposed to be promoting all LGBTQ literature and voices, having one that publicly disagrees with one member of the LGBTQ+ community is not very inclusive and is actually putting someone in a position where they might have to be in the same room as someone who hates them, which is horrible. Many of the judges, other authors and ones that had their books listed withdrew and distanced themselves from the prize because of this. The committee, I suppose for want of a better words, reaction to being told, why are you promoting a book by a transphobe, was that we all have different opinions, which is basically that, well, we don't care. So it's a bit of a slap in the face to the trans community, especially in 2025. Anti-trans feeling was at a height, and it's still probably there. I don't have any statistics, but given that people are much more outspoken and feel they can say a lot of transphobic hate without fear of being called out on it, or that not everyone's going to have a problem with it, kind of just shows you where we are, that you are literally allowed to hate a community and feel that that's okay. I will link Jason Okundaye's response that he wrote in The Guardian so you have more details about it. And the 2025 Polari Prize didn't actually happen. They stopped the whole thing. So there we go. So, but my silver lining was that this was one of the books that I was interested in. So from Willow talking about all the different people that had pulled their books, that had their books nominated, that weren't being able to get the accolades from that they should have done. Like, this prize should have been really supportive and encouraging and promote fantastic queer stories. And this was one of the ones that I was the most interested in. So there were a few other ones that I thought sounded interesting, but this one I was like, yes, definitely. So when I saw it in the library, I was like, absolutely thrilled to start reading this. So this book, it's so well written. The introduction and the epilogue of it were just so fantastic, alongside all of the amazing middle part which make up the book. I thought Jason Okundaye did a wonderful job of kind of exploring why it's so important to hear these voices and these stories, and kind of giving us a point of view of the society that doesn't always record everyone's voice. This definitely made me, after I finished reading this book, want to reach out to Olivia from Olivia's Catastrophe, because one of the things I've definitely found from watching her channel is the importance of missing voices in history and missing voices amongst stories we want to hear. For example, I really enjoyed reading, I think it was last year, Outrageous, which is the story of Section 28. And this touches on the existence of Section 28. But one of the critiques of that book is that it's very much from the author's point of view, which is a very white perspective. So it didn't kind of include a range of other voices in the community. And definitely reading this, I can see how big the holes really are in a lot of the queer history we're given and the stories that are told. The importance of having not just Black voices, but Asian voices, trans voices, those who are disabled, looking at those who come from different backgrounds, like looking at classism, looking at people's different financial situations. Like, it's important to have such a range of all those voices. And this book really brings to light what it is like for the Black gay community. So obviously this one does particularly focus on men. Like I said, it's about brotherhood, it's about men loving men. If there is someone out there that also has the female lens on this, I would love to read it. There are moments that speak about how there were communities that had both gay men and lesbians kind of involved and kind of coming together as Black queer people, and that kind of support, but it does primarily focus on men. And it's this wonderful insight through 7 people's journeys, 7 people's stories, and I just love how it's all been put together. The warmth, the feeling in this book that you are in these rooms with Jason and these wonderful uncles having this chat, you just really feel like you're there. Like, I feel like this is not my space at all, but I really feel like I want to be there in that room. I want to be having these chats. I want to adopt these amazing men as my uncles. There's such a wonderful warmth in there. There's just such a wonderful feeling for their community. And it just feels so personal, and it's just really brought to light. Like, it's very open, it's very honest. There's a lot of political things in there. There's a lot of things that it's not just about activism, but about the enjoyment, about showing voices, about art. And it's just normality. This is what they were having to deal with. This is what it was like for them. And in a lot of history, we don't get, it is predominantly, history is written by white cis het men. That's the history we're presented. And we are starting to chip away at that. We are starting to find other voices and bring those to light. And this is part of it. This is a really big part of it. And it just shows the importance of it. And what I really loved at the epilogue was Jason putting out, these men are still living. Like, this is not the end of the story. This is the end of the book, but it's not the end of the story. It's still going on. And I just feel so privileged to have read it. I feel so proud of everything that they have accomplished and come through, and that they're still living, and that they're still enjoying life and still finding purpose, and just being proud of who they are and having these spaces for other people like them. And it made me very emotional. And it's just that, again, that heart, that warmth, that feeling, it was just really wonderful to feel that. And I now definitely want to look further. I want to look up what Jason was talking about with some of the materials that they showed him, and like different newspapers and different articles and film clips. I don't know if I'm going to find them, because he did say some of them have been like taken off and where he didn't have access to them, like he only had them from these men's own personal archives, which is so sad. But why it's so important, like you said, to be having this documented.
And I definitely have since filming this. I've gone down a wonderful rabbit hole, found some YouTube channels that you should definitely check out. Our Black Gay Diaspora by Eric Taylor Woodby, and Avoiding My Anxiously Attached Boyfriend by Faris and Josh, which have interviews from some people featured in Revolutionary Acts.
And to be gathering and collating all these stories that are kind of dismissed because they don't fit the main societal norm. Within that, there's just so many moments in here that I'm in awe of what these people have done and what these people have gone through. They're just so delightful, and their different personalities just come off the page, and their enjoyment and their love of what they do and the things that they've come through, it's so delightful. And just, I can't put it in any more words than that. And you know, these are just 7 people's stories. There's so many more, so much more out there that we don't get to see represented. So just having this small window into this wonderful community was amazing, and I highly recommend this book. When I read I don't read much non-fiction, but I am pleased to say that when I do read non-fiction, I find it, the ones I get that speak to me, I do find really enjoyable, and some of them do go on to be my favourite books, and this is one of them. I highly recommend. So there we go. This is a little wrap up of 8 of the books that I've read throughout the winter months. And I've had a really wonderful time. I'm not going to be talking in depth about any more, but should you want to ask me my thoughts and opinions on any of the other stories, I am, of course, very happy to chat in the comments. Now I've wrapped up a little bit, I'm going to start thinking about what I might consider reading going forward. Brief update on my 6 plans for 2026. So plan number 1 is doing the middle grade madness challenge. I have got a separate video on that, but so far I originally aimed to read 12, but I've upped it to 17 so I can do all the prompts. Officially I've read 2 according to that video, but I've actually read 3 books for the middle grade madness challenge. So 2 are from 2023 and 1 is from 2025, which is great. So I wanted to do a mix of the years and also a mix of different parts of the list. So I have read both a shortlist and hidden gem, which was Saving Neverland by Abby Elphinstone, because it was a hidden gem and then also went onto the shortlist. I have read 1 long list book, which was The First Year, and I have read 1 consideration list book, which was Finally Seen. From the TBR tin, I read 1 intimidating book, which was Parable of the Sower, and I'm currently reading a hyped book, which is Principle of Moments. Children's booker, can't read yet because they're not being announced till November, but I am enjoying guessing what might go on the list, and I have got some possibilities kind of brewing up that if I do pick them up from the library and read them, I will talk to you about. Reading series, which was my number 4 plan. I said that I wanted to keep it at 10 series. Obviously I've got 15 on the go, so I kind of want to cut back a little bit. But I have started a middle grade series which I own all the books for, which is The Hatmaker. And I have started a YA series I own all the books for, which is The Giver. Plan number 5 is reading middle grade fantasy books by global majority authors. And I wanted 3 of these to be published in 2026. Haven't started yet with any of these, but I have been looking at what my options are. For one of the 2026 books, I am considering trying to get hold of. Hopefully my library will have it. If not, it's going to have to go on my waiting list. But that is Silverbrook, Yummy and the Golden Horse by Yasmin Abdel-Magid. I have got Listen Layla by this author under my bed that I really want to read. She is a Sudanese Australian author, and she has brought the mystical stories that her family and friends told her when she was growing up of the Sudanese and Muslim culture into the Silverscribe world. There is also mystery, empowerment, displacement and belonging being explored in this story, which sounds really exciting. A book that's not necessarily being published in 2026, one of the ones I'm thinking of reading is The City of Stolen Magic by Nazine Ahmed Pathak. This book I've had for a while and is looking at my shelf going, I sound really good, why haven't you read me yet? Because all the other books. But this story looks at colonialism between of India by the British Empire, which sounds really, really interesting to read, and I'm very excited to pick this one up and read it. And finally, my sixth plan is the rereads. I did one from my looking at the shelves and seeing what mood I was in, but I did also end up rereading two other books as well, so it is still encouraging me to reread, which is great. First, I'm going to go through the books that were on my shelf that I hadn't read, and then I have many thoughts. I do want to read this, and I need to return it to the friend who lent it to me. This is The Little Prince. Classic middle grade book. So I should really move on and read it. It's rude otherwise. I'm also going to keep my reread of Sweet Bean Paste. I think it's because it's spring and we've got the cherry blossoms on the front cover, and it is a very warm story. It's making me feel spring-like. I do want to pick it up and read it, so I'm going to keep it on the shelf. I want to continue on with some series, so continuing on with the Hat Makers. I have the Mat Makers. I intended to kind of keep going reading one of these a month, but that didn't happen. I'm going to blame the library. But I definitely do want to keep reading this series. And I have my big omnibus of the Giver Quartet. I would love to read the other two books, The Messenger and Sun, whilst they're all still in my brain. And I don't currently have it because it's under my bed waiting for me to earn it. But I want to continue with the Earthseed duology by Octavia E. Butler and read The Parable of the Talents. So that is mentally on the shelf here as well. I want to carry on with the Thursday Murder Club series and pick up the second book, which is The Man Who Died Twice. And I have this lovely hardback edition with the sprayed edges. So I think I just need the right moment to kind of go back into mystery zone. And then I've just been browsing my shelves and thinking, oh, what else am I feeling? I haven't read a classic for a long time, and I'm feeling kind of Austen era, but ones I haven't read. So that only is this little collection, which is the history of England, and it doesn't say it on the front, but it has the juvenilia in here as well. So that's the little some of the little stories that Jane Austen wrote, and it also has Sanditon and Lady Susan and the Watsons, even though it's not written on the title. I have read Lady Susan and I've read the segmented stories. I've read Sanditon and the Watsons, but I haven't read the other things. So this will be really good to read. And I think I've been putting it off because I like having something I haven't read by Jane Austen yet. But I know it's not going to be the same as the other works, but I think I will enjoy it. And I don't know why I feel spring is the time to do that. Although the other option is, because I feel it's going to be too much for me to read both, is to read an author that Jane Austen would have read, and I think she definitely did enjoy. I think there's some letters where she was talking about that she liked it. And this is Frances Burney, and it is her book Evelina. I bought this ages ago, and I still haven't read it. And again, I think it's just waiting for me to be like in the zone. I was hoping to kind of like do a little bit of writing, and this was going to be one of the books that's going to help me with that and kind of get in that mindset. But I never did any writing, and I don't think I am, but I want to read the book, so let's just do that. And then I've been looking at books that are kind of calling to me. I'm not sort of wanting to give myself, I think again I'm trying not to dive into too many series, but I have got a couple of books that I feel I should have read by now, and they are definitely calling to me, so I think it's their time. This is Kiki's Delivery Service by Iku Kadono, and this again is a middle grade classic. I intended to read this last year as part of the translated fiction, but I didn't happen. It didn't happen. So I'm feeling now is its time. I've heard really good things about this, namely from my mum, who when she was visiting us picked up this, said, oh, this looks nice, and read the copy. So she's already read from this copy before I have and recommends. So that's good to know. Quite soon. And another book that I think I've just been holding on to as like a little bit of excitement, but I feel I should just pick it up and read it, is Lost Souls Meet Under a Full Moon. And this is by Mitsu Tsuchimara. I absolutely love, and it's one of my favourite books, Lonely Castle in the Mirror. And so when this was being published, translated in the UK, I was so excited to pick up a copy. And this was a lovely gift from my mum. So I feel it's its time. I feel it's its time is coming and it's calling to me. So this is definitely a contender. And the final book that's been kind of waving around in front of my face is, now that I have finished an adult epic trilogy, The Magic of the Lost, I feel it's time to get my teeth into another adult epic fantasy. And this is The Sun and the Void by Gabriela Ramiro La Cruz. And this is the first book. The second book is out now. And I want to read this to know whether or not I should buy it in hardback or whether I should borrow it from the library. I'm hoping to buy it in hardback. So I can't remember anything about it, but that's how I like going into my books. But I know that the premise really kind of caught my attention. I thought it was something that was really going to appeal to me. So I picked it up and I still haven't read it yet. So I feel it's time. There we go. This is already a full shelf and I haven't done the TBR or the reread shelves. And I haven't spoken to you about some buddy reads and read-alongs that I also have, which I'm going to be talking to you about in my next video. So this is going to be cut down before it goes on the shelf. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please feel free to get chatty in the comments because I do love a chat. And if you have enjoyed this, do give me a little like because that's always nice. And if you want to let me know that you are here but you can't really think of anything in particular you want to say, then please leave me an emoji for any one of the books I wrapped up. And I'll see if I can guess what it is. Happy reading, everyone.